Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm John Cooley. I'm a retired LAPD sergeant. I retired in 2001. For the last 10 years of my career, I was the officer in charge of the department's Employee Assistance Unit, which was responsible for being the department's funeral coordinator. I managed the department's honor guard, their chaplains program, their peer support program, and their alcohol rehabilitation program. After I retired, I became affiliated with Police USA, and for the last several years I have been a consultant and trainer, helping them provide training and information to law enforcement agencies across the nation dealing with police funeral issues.
Tell me a little bit about this seminar and what's covered in it.
The seminars that we've been putting on are really very important for any agency, whether they have experienced a line of duty death or not, because it gives them a lot of insight into what it takes to be prepared for a death should it occur, and then how to manage the actual funeral so that everything runs as smoothly as can hoped for. I've never heard of a line of duty funeral not being done right, but I've talked to many agency funeral coordinators and learned that it wasn't done best. And that's, I think, is what our goal is, to make sure that every funeral is managed the best that it can be. There are so many little things that can come back and cause so much chaos behind the scenes, with the potential to really hurt the family, where they're not aware of certain things that they can do. They're not aware of what their options are. People feel left out at the end of the service. As an example, at one agency I was working with to help manage a funeral, I was walking down the hallway and I was introduced to the wife of an officer that worked there. And when I was introduced as a funeral coordinator, I asked her, is there anything that I could do for her? And she said, yes, there is. I've talked to other wives and we want to sit in the church during the service with our husbands. We all knew the deceased officer, we know his family, and we need to be with our husbands as part of this agency family and part of the grief process and everything, and we would really like to do that. And I said, well, let me talk to the planning team. I don't see why that should be a problem. And when we had our afternoon planning session, I brought up what this woman had told me, and several people in the group really got upset. They said, no, our officers have to march down the aisles and make a right turn and go around and hut and come into the pews and stand at attention with their caps underneath their arms, and then we'll tell them to sit at attention, and we've got it all planned out. We can't have these wives coming in with them. And so I explained to them how we could very discreetly have the wives come in from the side aisle of the church, be integrated into the formation as they went into the pews, sit with their husbands during the service, and then after the service was over, we'd take them out the same way. Oh, okay, that'll work. So once the emotions calmed down and they were shown that we could make this work without interfering with what they wanted as the military formation that would come into the church, which is important and very good, we had the wives sit with the officers, and it worked very well. But if I hadn't asked that question, if I hadn't had the sense that I was concerned about the people issues of this funeral, then they would have had the funeral without the wives, and after it was all over, they wouldn't have been satisfied. They would have always asked that question, why? And the response is because it's traditional that we march in, isn't a legitimate response. And so little things like that become very important.
One thing I noticed is that you could probably do a 6-hour seminar with having nothing but sharing their own stories. It really is something that you do permit some of the time for people to share their own experience and so forth. And how important is that to everyone learning from each other?
At the dozen at the dozen seminars that I've done, they've been very structured and didactic, one-way information. Although all the reviews afterwards were outstanding, and they all thanked me and shook my hand afterwards, and they were very appreciative of the information that they got. There was always opportunities for questions to be asked, for comments to be made, but we didn't have the time to really get into sharing and getting into anything in depth because it wasn't structured that way. But on the other hand, I think that it would be equally beneficial if we had seminars that were half as much talking from me and the other half really afforded the opportunity for people within the seminar that are attending it to really share their experiences, what worked for them, what didn't, what was frustrating, what they're proud of, so they can share with other people real life experiences. And the key to that type of approach is a very, I use the term professional facilitator to keep things on track. So it doesn't become a bitch session, or it doesn't become a group of people going off on a tangent that's not really the topic that we want to cover, or just talking and talking and talking when we want to get a chance for everybody to speak. I have a lot of experience facilitating group discussions from a variety of organizations that I worked with, the primary one being the peer support program for the police department. And a good facilitator at the end of the day, when he walks away, people should be saying, well, you didn't have much to say. That means I did my job. That means that I didn't talk, I got the other people there to talk, but kept it controlled, which means that if I'm there and seeing one person who's really overwhelming everybody and is the talker, to control them and keep them down, and the person that's sitting on the other side that hasn't had a chance to say anything, to make sure that he has the opportunity to, if he wants to. But he has to have that opportunity without him fighting with the guy across the circle trying to get a word in edgewise. And so it's very...
So it's also trying to find the information that is relevant to everybody else, so that you can draw from that antidote, perhaps, a gem of wisdom that makes it worthwhile for that story to get told. Hold on. Sorry.
So I think that becomes very important, because my experience has been that when you're trying to facilitate a discussion, especially we've got police officers in a room that have either coordinated a funeral, they probably all attended a funeral, and they've all got opinions, and they've all got ideas, and they all have some experience, and they all have something to contribute. So the key is getting that information out so that everyone can share, because the old axiom that every group is smarter than any individual in the group, we should take advantage of that.
Ideally, who best benefits from this? Is it the chief? Is it the actual coordinator? Is it the chaplain? Who is it?
From the seminars, I think the coordinators benefit the most from it, but the chiefs are very appreciative, because it's the chief's reputation on the line as far as how well things are managed, and the chiefs are, as everyone, but the chiefs especially, really want the family's needs to be met, and they're not prepared to do it. It's not their job to do it, but they have to choose the best person to do the job. And that goes back to the coordinator. If the coordinator has the information they need, if they know what resources and services they can access to make things run smoothly, then the funeral service will end up being the best that it can be.
Explain to me a couple more questions here. Why is it that a policeman should get a bigger, why should the city stop to honor a policeman when he's killed? Why should it be any bigger than anybody else's?
Oh, jeez. I don't know if I can put that into words. When an officer is killed in the line of duty, it's common, if not traditional, that that everything. Geez, Phil, I don't know how to say that.
My understanding is that when an officer is killed, he's killed because he represents the community. And, you don't get paid much in this lousy job, and by gosh, when something happens to you, you've got to know that the whole community is there with you. And so it does become important to stop traffic and for everybody to stop for a moment. And I'm putting words, you put words in your mouth that you already know very well. I know this is a much more complex issue than my understanding of it, but it is because you are killed oftentimes because of you represent the community, and the best in the community. And when we see that happen, we need to have a collective moment. And if police officers don't see the communities there, then there's something that falls apart. I guess imagine for me what it would be like if we outlawed police funerals. What would be the difference? What would be the difference?
Well, I need to approach this from one perspective, is that the community realizes, but when an officer dies, they're really reminded that police officers are volunteers. They volunteer to be a police officer. They volunteer to serve the community. They volunteer to put their lives at risk to protect the people of the community. And they do it from a very altruistic reason, because they firmly believe it's the right thing to do. And if they don't, there's no consequences. What I mean by that is, when I was in the Army, if I was told in Vietnam to charge that hill, and I said I didn't think that was a good idea because it was dangerous, I would be court-martialed, and I could be sent to prison, and I could be punished for it because I disobeyed an order. When a police officer is at a dangerous situation and the sergeant says, I want you to go in that warehouse and find the bad guy, and I say, well, I don't think that's a real good idea right now, they can't arrest me, they can fire me, but they can't punish me, they can't send me to prison because I haven't violated any laws. I have to go into that warehouse because I agree it's the right thing to do. I need to do it because it's my obligation as a police officer. It's my responsibility to all these good things, but it's as a volunteer. When it comes right down to it, it's because I volunteer to do it. And I volunteer to do it because hello, David. I would appreciate that.
Okay, let me call when you guys are wrapped up.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.